Hey, welcome to episode 3 of Attacking the Paint. I'm your host, James Ivy Williams. And today I have with me 3 of my regional scouts. I've got Drew, I've got Lath, and I've got Paul. We're going to recap our coverage of the Pangos All-Freshman Sophomore camps around the country over the fall and winter. So jump on in and take a look and see what we got. All right. So guys, we're going to do a little recap on the regional Pangos All-American or All-Freshman, All-Sophomore events. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm James Williams, the owner of Between the Lines Sports, and I've got a few of my regional scouts on the call. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves individually. Paul, since your camera is up, how about you go first?
Hi, my name is Paul, and I'm here at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. I'm a senior, and I'm a regional scout, as James introduced us, and I'm taking care of Illinois.
All right. Drew, you up next. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, James, thanks for having us. My name is Drew Barton. I'm the regional scout working with James, do a lot of my work in the West Coast and kind of southern areas, so Texas, Arizona, California. I'm working on getting my master's degree in sport management currently at the University of San Francisco, and had a good time covering the Pangos event, seeing the up-and-coming talent.
Good stuff. Lath?
My name is Lath. I'm an Oklahoma State University student studying management. I am covering the areas Oklahoma and Texas as a regional scout here at Between the Lines Sports.
Awesome, guys. So for me, this is exciting because Pangos is one of the events that I always feel is one of the most valuable scouting events we can cover, because I cover the Pangos All-American game. He has a few events, the Tarkington Classic, which is a big high school event that they do. But the freshman sophomore event is so valuable because it's a chance to see a lot of upcoming young players in one setting. And so for me, this is the third time that I've covered the event. But last year I did Chicago, so I just covered that event. But this year, having you guys placed it regionally, particularly, was so super valuable because it allows us to kind of get everybody to see guys themselves. So for me, the first thing that I want to talk about is just what did you guys think about what was your experience like covering the event in itself?
Yeah, and, I can go first on this one, James.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it was a really great experience. I mean, we were covering a lot of freshman, sophomore players, so it was really interesting to see. It's a little less refined game film compared to watch some of the older guys who've got junior, senior years. They've been moving around maybe to prep schools, but I mean, it was really exciting watching some of these kids play. And I think the thing that was actually almost easier scouting is you could tell who could play kind of right off the jump because of kids are growing into their bodies still. So I definitely could tell right off the jump. There were some kids who 6'4", 180 as a freshman, and they knew how to use that, build. I had a really good time doing it. And, some of the kids I covered are in my own backyard. So, I mean, looking forward to watching them over the next, 2-3 years.
Gotcha. Paul, what about you?
Oh yeah, I also great experience for this camp, and it was actually my first time actually going to a specific place and doing my job. So I was really excited, and it was way different than just watching videos and through online platforms. So it was a whole different thing. And also, as Drew mentioned, there were a lot of good players, young talents, and we just couldn't know that right away if you see them, if they're good or not. And it was very, very excited to see them at one place. So all Midwest, for me, it was Chicago thing. So all Midwest players, and it was great to see all of them. And it was also good because I could also get connected with other people, other scouts, or some players, and also with their parents. So for me, it was a great experience, and yeah, looking forward to more of that.
Awesome. Lath, what about you?
I would have to agree with Drew. This one, you're looking more at the raw play style of the prospect than analytics. You're not using analytics. You're looking at how they play, how they use their body, their size, how they attack the rim, how they operate in catch and shoot scenarios. And you're not looking at their 3-point percentage, their points per game, and their averages. And also this is more raw players. So like
Mhm.
they're gonna have more turnovers. This is the first time they're playing with each other, so it's more like yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the thing is this. I may have said this to you guys before, but a lot of it is just um, skill set. That's all you're gonna see because there's not a lot of team concept. I mean, they try their best to instill like some sort of like coaching and everything, but when you have like honestly, when you have 14, 15, some 16-year-old kids, like you ain't getting a lot of
Roll,
that. You're
roll
just
the balls out.
exactly just let them play.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it though is like you said, when you see a ninth grader and when the camp I was at in New Jersey, there was some eighth graders in the camp. And so when you see some eighth graders, some ninth graders, but the thing that you're doing, you're kind of evaluating them all as 10th graders because that's the highest level that you are. So you're comparing them to the best competition that they can, and you don't know who's who. And so for me, the best part about it is like I always tell people the best part about this job is that like seeing someone you've never seen before. And so when you go into a camp with no expectations whatsoever, no concept of who's there, who's not there, and then the cool part is like even reading some of you guys' notes, the guys that you guys identified were all in the top games. They're in the top 60 in the top 30 game, which means that we all identified the going along with the camp guys for the most part. We all identified the top guys at the camp, which is good in itself. And it's like no type of fluff because if you go to an AAU tournament, someone's hey, well, my kid's this, my kid's that, or the coach is going to tell you who somebody is, and so like now you've got like something in the back of your mind to kind of think about. When you go in blind, it's just like I'm going to sit down. Whoever jumps off the court at me is the guy that I'm gonna write about. And other than that, so there's no type of there's no nothing. And that was my favorite. That's my favorite part about it is that there's no type of you can't sway me with words here because I don't know you. And most of the for what we're watching, no one knows us that we're watching. So we just go evaluate. And so for me, that was kind of the best part about it. All right. So again, so we watched, 2020, 2024, 2025, and in some case, 2026. Is that right? Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the eighth, because yeah. So I guess everyone can kind of talk about, I guess one of the younger players that you guys saw first. So if you guys want to talk about just maybe a 24 or I'm sorry, a 25 or a 26 kid that you guys saw first that maybe stood out to you the most, and then we can kind of push forward from there. So anybody in particular want to go first, you can, and just kind of talk about a player that for one of the younger players in the camp like that just really stood out to you. Anybody want to go first?
I can go first on this one. So
Okay.
the first player that stood out to me was James Deloge. His high school is Sylvan Hills. He is class of 2025 and he is 6 foot 5 inches tall.
Hmm.
He was what I liked about him was he was able to use his size to post up smaller defenders. In the post, he was able to make turnaround jumpers and hook shots. He was he had a big size advantage over the players that were guarding him, so he was able to shoot over smaller defenders and make tough contested shots over them. He also had ball handling skills, so he was able to grab a rebound and push the pace in transition.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. So how about so when you're watching him, James, you said Deloach, right?
Yeah.
So like tell me this, like what do you can you see do you see something that James can you see a progression in James? Is there a skill set that he has now that maybe you're like to say, okay, well he's gonna be really good if this keeps developing. Did you see anything like that that kind of jumped off at you from when you saw him? Like anything
Yeah,
that
his ability to make tough contested shots.
okay.
And he probably will hit a growth spurt eventually. So as he hits that growth spurt, he should be able to like improve on making more tough contested jumpers.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. And Lathan, you cover the Texas event, correct?
Yeah, Texas,
Gotcha.
Oklahoma area.
Gotcha. Paul, what about you? What did you see?
For the 2025 graduates one, I saw Kieran Granville Britton.
Okay.
He is a 6'8" guy, and he's from Taft, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yep.
And
First of all, tough. They have a good program too, so I'm sure there's a ton of kids that were from that camp that were there. But they always have really good. They have a good program. But I'm sorry, continue.
yeah, right. as I first saw him, he was really big. At first, his size was great, and like his lengthy was so long, and
Mhm.
he was a great athlete who can rebound and run the floor. So
Okay.
what caught my eyes was that he got the rebound, and he's already down the court, and he just makes the fast break points.
Okay.
And obviously, he can protect the paint,
Mhm.
and I think for the younger, most of my guys I saw were like 2024, but he was like the only 2025 that I saw interesting.
Okay.
And I think, he could be a great weapon later for
Okay.
sure.
So you're saying like he's getting rebounds and he's pushing. So
Yeah,
so that's something that we see all the time, especially now in the game, like NBA college stuff.
Mhm.
You want a big who's versatile, and so somebody that can get a rebound and start the fast break himself, and not have to look for a point guard to do it. That's something that translates immediately. And so for a 2025 kid to do that, and it just seemed like he sounds like he felt comfortable doing it. That's a skill set that definitely translates and kind of pushes him forward as he gets older in high school. Drew, what about you?
Yeah, so I actually had a pair of kids that I actually found out were teammates in high school at St. John Bosco's in Bellflower, California, I believe. And so the first was combo guard Eli's Harrington.
Okay.
He was actually, I believe, after kind of going in and doing some more research, actually was the number one prospect going into the camp. 6'4" combo guard, 180, was by far the best scorer at the camp. Just a
Okay.
really smooth jump shot, got to his spots, really great at finishing with either hand. My favorite thing about him was, despite the loose nature of the camp, he forced absolutely nothing. It just kind of came to him. And, he's not the best defender. And again, part of that may be just the element of the camp. He's there looking to create his own shot, but a super smooth scorer. And his teammate, also class of 25, Cade Bonham, 6'7" power forward, in my opinion, was probably the best offensive big at the camp. He did a
Okay.
really great job at hitting cutters, was passing from the post, the elbows. Didn't look to score as much. He did a lot of deferring to his teammate, to Harrington. But I just saw from an offensive standpoint, he had a really great feel for the game, flashed a mid-range jumper, a solid rebounder. But I would have liked to see a little bit more scoring from him. But I mean, they're going to be teammates in high school, both in the class of 25, and those two are going to cause some problems, I think, especially as they build on that chemistry.
Gotcha. I remember reading your notes about the big too. Like, I mean, for me, hearing about a freshman in particular that gets in the mid post and hits cutters and looks for guys, that feel, that's a guy that's kind of scary when he becomes a senior. Junior, senior. If he gets a little bigger, even if he doesn't get big, if a 6'7" kid that can work out of the mid post and find guys, hit a mid range jump shot. That's versatility in itself. And then that's, like I said, that's something that, again, it translates. It just does. I mean, like everyone can handle it. Everyone wants to create, but to find somebody that can hit guys moving off the ball, that's something that's unique in itself. And for a 14-year-old kid, in theory, guy who just came out of middle school last year, that says a lot about him as far as Phil goes, for sure. For me, it was a couple of 25 kids that I liked, but there's this kid, Wilkin Paulino from Springfield Commonwealth Academy in Massachusetts. He was like 6'3". The cool thing I liked about the vibe of the camp is that everyone was like intense. And that's kind of the vibe I got last year. The Chicago camp was the same way. The Chicago kids were super intense. So like for me to kind of see that again in the New Jersey camp, which was Philadelphia really, but neither here nor there. But Wilkin, like, he seemed like intentionally, and not force, but hunt almost, if that makes any sense. So he didn't force shots, but he hunted shots. So like when he got the ball, he got a guy off balance, he was gonna get into your body. He sought contact, he sought to get to the rim, that kind of thing. Then he started hitting, and he let that play open up his jump shot off the dribble. I mean, so for me, it was like being able to like pick and choose and then keep his defenders off balance, because he could do a little bit of everything. So whether he was shooting jumpers or getting into lane, he even finished the camp up hitting a few runners in the lane, which was impressive to me, because again, that shows you touch and feel. Like, I've already got you from the perimeter. I'm getting into the lane. Now I'm going to hit you in between. And that way, now you really can't guard me, and you saw the link too. And then I think the cool part too is like, you're seeing his size, right? And you're like, you're not, when you're evaluating it, you kind of forget that these are fucking kids, right? You're forgetting that they're like kids. His kid's 14, he's 14, like, so. And you're thinking about like, hold up, all these kids were in middle school last year, right? Like, like these kids are in middle school 2 years ago, and now like this is a big, he's a 6'3" combo guard who's a 2025. Long arms, athletic, and like and a little nasty, a little nastiness to him as well. Like somebody that just had a little something extra. So that for me, that's encouraging because what you can't really teach, you can't teach somebody to be intense. You can't teach somebody to to have a will to compete. You can tone it down, but typically if a guy ain't got it, he ain't got it. And that thing right there is something that like again it transfers. And so that was something that was impressive to me. Next we're going to talk about 25 kid. I mean 24 kid. Now this is the thing. Don't tell me your favorite player yet. I don't want. So we're gonna do that. We'll do that last. So give me a guy that maybe wasn't your favorite player, but still stood out as a 2024, and then we'll talk about your favorite players from the camp. And so we'll go backwards this time. So Drew, how about you go first and tell me one of your favorite 24 kids from the camp?
Yeah, I would say Malik Diallo out of Draper, Utah. He's a center, 6'8", 205, class of 24. Arguably the best big in terms of his just physical ability. He looked like, like you were saying, a man amongst boys out there. And this kid's 15, 16 years old. And right away, he stepped on the court and I was like, man, this just from a physical standpoint, he was gobbling up boards, really great at running to the rim, contesting shots, plays really hard down low, which, as we're seeing more kids are getting away from that kind of physical style. So I really like seeing a big, play big. Definitely needs to work on his basketball IQ. I kind of think that stereotype of, big young kids still exists there. He didn't do a great job of passing out of double teams. Didn't really have a post game. It was more just bully ball. So while it works at a camp setting where it's kind of everyone's getting their own, and like you said, they're competing at a high level, I'd be curious to see him play in a more refined basketball setting where, they're looking to run sets. But from a physicality standpoint, he was dominant. And so I like the motor. I liked his willingness to, crash the boards, get to the rim, contest shots. So I think Malik Diallo out of Utah is going to be a force.
Gotcha. Paul, what about you?
James, I actually have like my four favorite players. Can I just tell like third and fourth right now? Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul. That's fine.
Yeah, so one is Ryan Larson. He's a 6'3" guard from Jamestown.
Okay.
And he has a great size and strength. And what makes him unique was that he can play from like position 1 to 5. And
oh wow.
He can actually grab some rebound and just do the point guard thing. And he had a great like fundamental skills and athleticism as well. And he looked very comfortable bringing the ball down and finding his teammates. And I think one important thing is that he really knows when to stop and when to step up his offense. So I think he's an all-around player and he's very effective on both ends of the floor.
Okay.
And also the other guy is called Kale Cosme, and he's like the shortest player in the camp. He has 5'3", from Brother Rice, Chicago, Illinois. And even though he was the shortest guy, I think he was like the most outstanding point guard in this camp. Okay. So he also had like solid fundamentals, and his playmaking abilities were unbelievable in my opinion. So he knew how to like dribble and make passes and know how to use his teammates as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Lath, what about you? What you got?
I actually have two players I want to discuss. So the first one is Jamie Vincent. His high school is St. Michael's Catholic Academy. He is class of 2024. His height was 6 feet 9 inches. He is a rim running center. He was able to protect the rim. He has size and length, so giving him the ability to block and alter shots. He has a nice finishing touch at the rim, so he will be able to operate in pick and roll situations, even though we didn't see it. I didn't watch in the camp because this is the first time they play with each other, so they don't have that like chemistry they built up. Yeah. And also he is able to grab like a lot of offensive rebounds, so that gives his team extra possessions and second opportunities at second chance points. So he's very aggressive, crashing the boards.
That's valuable too. That's really valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when the game slows down.
Just and also on the other side, the one thing that we can say for certain, especially with high school basketball in particular, shot percentages aren't great. So the fact that most of these guys are gonna be missing more than they make, and this guy is gonna get them second and third opportunities to score, that's more likely for a basket to go in. So that's huge. That's huge right there. Like the ability to get an offensive rebound in this kind of setting is something that's super valuable. And a lot of people don't talk about or think about. So that's something cool to catch for sure.
And the second player I liked is Landon Brown. His high school is Faith Family. He's class of 2024, and his height is 6 feet 2 inches tall. He showed the ability to score at this camp. He was able to create his own shot from inside mid-range and three-point range. And then he could also attack the rim. He had speed and explosiveness attacking the rim. He was also a good defensive rebounder for his size. So he's only 6 feet 2 inches, but he was able to grab defensive rebounds and push the pace. So he was able to create easy opportunities in transition for himself and his teammate. And he doesn't force shots. Like, he can find the open man.
Okay, that's good. Again, that talks about feel. When guys don't force shots, that talks about feel. And like in these camps, it's hard to showcase your feel because there's so much one-on-one basketball going on that you almost get an anxiety about it sometimes. And this is from me watching it for years now. Like when you don't touch the ball for a while, kids like when I touch it, I'm shooting it, like, and they don't really care. So, and you can't really blame them either. Like it's like anything else. Like you're here to do the same thing, and then if you don't touch the ball for 4, 5, 6 possessions, when you touch that, you letting that thing go because you may not touch it again. And so to hear about a kid who didn't force shots and he kind of played within himself and played within the game which is impressive. I mean, and also it kind of shows that maybe he was getting the ball enough to where he didn't have to do that too. So that helps.
Yeah, that's one thing I realized: the lack of ball movement. Like they were some kids were forcing up a lot of shots at this camp.
Yeah, for sure. Then that's going to happen. Just in this age, regardless, that's what's going to happen. So one of my favorites is a kid named Jordan Vick. He goes to Southern Nash in North Carolina, 6-foot point guard, 2024 class. The first thing that stood out about me is that he knocked down the first game that I watched. He was in, and he knocked down 2 pull-up free throw jumpers and got fouled on both of them. So I was like, it was just so the idea of somebody hitting it. First of all, we can all attest that the mid-range game is lacking sorely in basketball, and so for a kid, to like not only knock them down, seemed to be doing it it seemed to be like in his repertoire of skill set. Because while everyone else was shooting threes, he was doing getting pump fake one dribble, getting to the free throw line, knocking down pull up jumpers, which was impressive. He's he's about 6 feet, and that may be generous, 5'10" to 6 feet. So that was the first thing. It seemed like he kind of like warmed up himself first, so he seemed like to get himself going, knock down the mid range jumpers first. Then he started getting into the lane. And what you notice when he got into the lane, how strong he was. Like he's like a really strong kid. And even when you looked at him, like afterwards, I talked to him a little bit. You looked at him, broad chest, broad shoulders, big calves. Just like you can see a frame. Like so. This kid's like he's a strong point guard. So he was getting into the lane, he's taking contact, finishing left hand, right hand off the glass with touch. Then started knocking down some transition threes. Played in the pick and roll a little bit, actually found a roller on like a nice like one dribble pocket pass, which again, that kind of stuff you don't see a lot. And then for me, what took the cake is like he caught a tip dunk off the rim. I mean, and it was just didn't expect it, didn't see it coming. And so for me, it's like athletic. So now you see that he's an athletic small guard that's strong, that can shoot a little bit. And typically, I mean, the kind of guy that the frame he reminds me of is Carson Edwards. I don't know if you guys remember Carson Edwards went to Purdue, played for the Celtics. I'm not sure who he's with now. But young Carson was just like that. Like he's taller than Carson, but Carson's short, stocky, but shoot it from deep, athletic, will put it on your head kind of thing. But at first you'd see him catch something here or there and will be light. So as he got older and got more comfortable with his body and his strength, that's when he started catching people. And so I can see the same thing happening for Jordan, that Jordan, as he gets older, gets, a little bit more comfortable with his body, gets stronger, all those things, those little tip dunks don't start going from one dribble straight line drives to just, catching the body on somebody. And so that kind of stuff is always impressive to me. because with little guards in particular, I would say this. I feel like if you're a little guard, you have to be able to make easy shots. You can't every shot you can't go in the lane and have to go hang and float and lean to get shots off. And he didn't seem to be struggling to get a shot off. So that's the first thing. Then you gotta be scary. And for me, what I mean by scary, there's something about your game that has to be to make people really be taken aback a little bit by you. So whatever it is, it could be your defense, it could be your ability to shoot the ball, it could be your ability to create for yourself with your handle. Something has to scare someone else about you. And so it's to the point where I don't want this little dude guard me, or I don't want to guard him. And I feel like he's a guy that people the older he gets, people aren't gonna want to guard him. Is how I feel. I think he's gonna be a kid that next year, this summer coming up, so going into his junior summer, 16U, he's gonna be a problem, because I think he's somebody that people are gonna be reluctant to want to stay in front of, because he's not gonna allow it. So but those are one of my favorites, for sure. Let's get into who you guys thought was the best player at your camp. And again, it doesn't have to be the guy who won most outstanding player, or cream of the crop MVP, whatever the case may be. Just your favorite player, because we all know like awards don't always equate to who's the best player. So Paul, how about you go first and tell me who your favorite player was in the camp? Just your favorite player.
Just one, right?
Yeah, just one. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, it's hard. I had two in my mind.
All right. Give me one of them first, and we'll get to the second one.
Okay.
Give me one of them first.
Okay, then I'll go with Zevin Gatson.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a 6'3" guard from Butcher, Akron, Ohio. And why I picked him is that he was like the best scorer in the camp. So if you wanted to score, it was automatic 2 or 3 or free throw.
Okay.
So he had every skill sets, including all pull-ups and catch and shoot and making tough layups. But one important thing was that he didn't force the shots. All he did is get spaces and use his teammates and making shots. And he also had decent athleticism and everything else. And he can also play defense. And I think so if you see him, he plays easy basketball. He doesn't do hard things, but it's an automatic points always. So
gotcha.
That's why I chose him. And one other guy is Dequan Brown, and he is a 6'3" guard from Limestone Community, and he's actually the MVP of the camp. He got the MVP, and my first action that he did was that his passing sense was really good, so he found his teammates. So what I thought was that at first that he was just a great passer, just a great point guard. But then after few games, he showed that he can score and make threes and have good dribbles. And what caught my eyes was that he looked like a true leader. So he was very energetic, even if he was in the bench, and everyone is trying to show one-on-one skills and try to be the best player, but then this guy really wanted to win. So yeah, he probably won every games in the camp.
Okay.
For 2-3 days. So
okay, good stuff.
Yeah, yes, he was a true leader. That's why I think he was the best player in this camp.
Okay,
he was fair to get the MVP.
Okay, good stuff. Lath, what about you? Favorite player?
So my favorite player is Dallin Fuller. His high school is Union. He is class of 2024, and his height is 6 feet 4 inches tall. So what I liked about him was he was an athletic finisher in space. He used his size to attack the rim with ease. He kept attacking the rim. He was aggressive attacking the rim in the half court, so he can produce offense in the half court. And he doesn't shy away from contact. He absorbs the contact well and gets to the free throw line. And he is also a crafty finisher around the rim and can finish through traffic. He was also able to operate in transition on leakouts and as a ball handler. So he's very dynamic in transition. On defense, he used his length to alter his matchup shot. He was able to force his matchup into a tough contested shot. So
okay. Hey guys, and just for the record, the guys that we're liking, if you guys aren't noticing, there's a commonality with everybody that we're talking about too. If you're catching it, most guys aren't forcing shots. Most guys have a little bit of versatility. Like, so that says something. Like, it's a maturity to their games for sure. So that's a good call. Drew, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the best player, I think the kid I mentioned earlier, Harrington, was by far the most polished basketball player. I believe he was also camp MVP, made all the top 30 teams. But in terms of a player that just to me stuck out and I just saw maybe more potential was Deshaun Gorey, a small forward out of Riverside, California, 6'5". He was really thin, 170. So right away when I saw him, I kind of thought like classic high school player, needs to put some weight on, but has an outstanding motor and might have been the best competitor at the camp. I mean, this kid was attacking the basket, flying up and down in transition. And despite the small frame, he was in the top 30 game. And I think he led the game with 8 boards. And so this is a kid that I see if he can get some weight, maybe hits another growth spurt. I mean, he's class of 24. So, you know, if he can get up to that 185 range and maybe gets to 6'7", just his motor and energy alone. I mean, in a camp where everyone's just kind of playing loose and, you know, trying to just feel for each other. Yeah. I mean, I saw this kid flying around the court. Hit a couple of shots, and that to me it says a lot, you know, like we talked about, for a kid who's willing to compete at this level and kind of this setting where it seems more casual. I can only imagine the energy he brings, you know, when he's playing a state championship level game. So he wasn't the best basketball player, but definitely a personal favorite. The energy was outstanding.
For sure. That's good stuff. So my guy was Ian Jackson. He goes to Cardinal Hayes in New York, 6'6" shooting guard, class of 2024. So as you're in the camp, right, there are rumblings about like, okay, well, that kid's this or this kid's that, and this kid, you know, and so there's another kid. I don't know. I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't want to throw kids under the bus, but there's one kid that people started saying was the best player in the camp. And so I was like, okay, he's on my court next. Let me check him out. Let me see what, you know, what the hype's about. No one said anything about Ian. And next thing I know, I'm watching the other kid because people keep telling me to watch the other kid. And then you start noticing like the separation between the two is just drastic, right? So Ian's like a legit 6'6", so no fluff about his size, slightly framed, but like combo handle package was just ridiculous. Like, just, I mean, when I say create separation, I mean, just, and again, when you think about it, he's a 10th grader. So like some of the stuff he's doing, like you see, these are like really like adult elite moves. I'm like, how is this 10th grader creating this separation? So he was doing like side step back threes. I mean, like handle was on a string. I mean, but it was also fundamental. So he wasn't dribbling for the sake just to dribble. He was dribbling to get you off balance. And for me, that was the best part, because I could, as a former point guard, you kind of watch that kind of stuff. Like, so he's getting you off balance, and then once he gets you leaning, then he creates the separation. And so he's knocking down threes first. I mean, just right wing, left wing, top of the key, everything, in transition, pull ups, everything. Then he's getting to lane, and it's like, I'm not going in here for a layup. I'm gonna go dunk it. So whoever's in the way, I'm gonna go dunk it, kind of thing. Then it was pull up, mid range stuff. And it was like, fuck, you know. It was just more so like, wow, what can't this kid do? And then on the defensive side, just long arms, like arms down to his knees, just in the passing lanes, in the backcourt, you know, wreaking havoc. Like literally, like I saw him pick off he was pressuring the kid in the backcourt. The kid picked the ball up, tried to throw over that pass. He literally jumped in the air, snatched the shit out of there. Like, just, I mean, that's on the ball too. So it wasn't like, you know, somewhere else. Like I'm in front of you. You try to throw over me. He jumped. It was like a jump ball. It was crazy. And so for me, and he was just my favorite because he seemed he was the most polished kid, and he didn't talk shit. He wasn't like, you know, because again, you guys know that Northeast region of kids, they do a lot of chirping. He was just hooping. And so I think he just wanted to make a statement that he was, and again, for me, for an outsider evaluator, he was by far the kid that caught my eye and was probably the most impressive. So he's somebody that I want to keep up with and keep track of moving forward. But guys, so for me, that's kind of like, that was the kind of the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to get to with you guys. But this is fun, and I kind of feel like this is something I think we should do more often, anyways. Just as far as like, you know,
yeah,
and for sure. You know, because for me, it's like, it's one of those things that like, you guys will cover events, and I'll get the notes, but you kind of read through. But if we're all busy, it's so hard to kind of like get a feel for stuff. So like, hearing you guys talk about it personally definitely give me a more, because like some guys that we had notes on that I didn't even know, because like shit's coming in so fast, you never really can catch up with everybody. So at least if you get the quick hitters about who played well or who didn't play well, it kind of stays fresh in my mind. And then on the other side, and now like for us, like this is 4 different regions of the country, so now we kind of know at least names about people to watch. And then when AAU comes around, whatever circuit they're on, these are guys that we can kind of keep track of. So but this is fun. Hey guys, well, you guys have a good night. Thanks for staying on, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Okay?
Thanks for taking a listen to episode 3 of Attack in the Paint, where we recapped the Pangos All-American Freshman Sophomore Regional Camps. Be on the lookout for our next episode, where we have our first guest of the season, Matt Babcock, NBA draft analyst for Basketball News. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.